Om Aganatimananda Sanganangana Salakaya Chaksuru Militam Yanatajmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanyamano Vistam Stapitam Yanabhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swapanantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savrutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaga Larita Shivishakanvitam Stam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mahamandir Madir Gati Matsavasha Param Bhoja Radha Ramadana Mohanam Siman Rasa Rasaram Vamsi Vada Karsan Venu Shanubagi Gopanata Suresaram Divyad Vrindaranya Kampadrumada Srimad Radhagara Shima Shanishto Shri Sri Radha Shira Govinda Prastadabihi Sevamanushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Cha Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Guru Radhaja Mangalam Panidi Kaksho Mangaraya Tano Hari Om Narayana Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Padme Cha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hare Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Dhanarite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamani Hare Priya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyavadi Praskatha Desana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Good morning. I've got Rob with me on Zoom and on Facebook Live joining us. Thus far are Bhakti Gary, John Malik, someone named Bhai Bobby, Christine Warden, and Brent Spencer. It is said that in order to be able to speak, to communicate expertly, and to share knowledge, one must first learn to listen. Oh, Brent authenticates the truth of that statement because last night he gave a Sunday Feast talk. It was his first Sunday Feast talk, replete with a very well organized slideshow, wonderfully organized presentation, crystal clear. It seemed to have enlivened the entire audience. Everybody was asking questions. Everybody was clearly enlivened by the talk. Brent's been, I don't know of any time he's missed our morning Bhagavatam classes since the beginning of COVID. I don't know of any time he's missed coming to the Sunday Feast and sitting and listening to me talk, except for the times that he's been in Vrindavan listening to the speakers there, or in Govardhan Echo Village listening to the speakers there. Prabhupada tells the story that one time he was in Vrindavan with all the disciples. His guru was there, Bhaktisiddhanta. On a particular day, the devotees had a choice to go to a place of pilgrimage they'd not been to before. But Bhaktisiddhanta wasn't going to lead them. He was going to stay back and give a talk. The choice was between going to this never-before-seen place of pilgrimage or staying back and hearing Bhaktisiddhanta talk. So many of the disciples might have thought, no, I've heard Bhaktisiddhanta speak so many times, but I've never seen this pilgrimage place before. So most of the disciples went to see the pilgrimage place, but Prabhupada opted to stay back. And when he did that, Bhaktisiddhanta noted him, blessed him, favored him by saying he's very serious about listening. So Brent is on board with us, Facebook Live, has been practically without any break for the last 3 years, and certainly did a very, very credible job, Brett, of giving the first Sunday Feast talk. And the beautiful thing is that when you prepare a talk and you have a slideshow, that talk is always available to give in the future. I'm hoping we can fit you in up in Salt Lake City to give that same talk again. And Beautiful thing is also you don't have to prepare for a specific date. You can just be in the mode of preparing talks and making slideshows, and whenever you're called upon, you have a whole backlog, you have a whole archive, a whole library. Personally, I think I have like 400 slideshows, so I'll never be at a loss. Even if I don't have time on any given week to create a new one, I can bring up one from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years ago. Look at it again with the new insights, the new maturity, hopefully, that I've gained in the intervening years. Bring it up to date and present it. And not only will I have evolved and learned more and change, but the audience will have changed. So even those which are dredged up from the past are never stale, never hackneyed, never dated. They're always organic. They're always living. It's a beautiful thing about preparing your talks and having your notes and slideshows. It's permanent. You're never put in a position of just speaking extempore off the top of your head, although Prabhupada said we should be able to do that. But wherever there's the time to prepare, we should do that too. We're revisiting this verse for the 6th time. It's the 19th verse in the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maya Javani Kachananam Agya Dokshajadam Avyam Nalakshe Mudadrisha Nato Nyata Daro Yataham. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. Now, if you recall, last Wednesday, we talked about certain things being forbidden in this Kali Yuga age. There are 4 cosmic seasons: Krita, Treta, Dwarpa, and Kali. Kali is like the winter season of the cosmos, season of quarrel and hypocrisy. So certain things which were permissible in previous ages are forbidden in the Kali Yuga age. According to the Brahma Vibharta Purana, it says, Ashwamedha Gabadambam, the performance of horse sacrifices, is prohibited in this age of Kali. Sanyasha Padapaijakam, the taking of sannyas, the renounced order of life, and donning the ochre or saffron colored robe, is forbidden in this age. Impregnating your brother's wife, should your brother pass away, it was permissible in those days for the brother to impregnate the wife, and that's in fact what Vyasadeva did with Satyavati, thereby producing Chitraganda Vichiravirya as well as Bhisma. But that's prohibited in this particular age. Sannyas is not recommended for the particular age, and yet we read that Lord Chaitanya himself, who was a devotional incarnation of Krishna, Vairagamiddha Nidya Bhaktinam Shiksartame, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sari Kripambari Yashtra Mahapadyade. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself, having descended to play the role of a devotee, and by his exemplary behavior, teach us how we should comport ourselves. So on the one hand, it's forbidden to take sannyas in the age of Kali, and on the other hand, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's supposed to be setting an example for all of us, went ahead and took sannyas. So how are we to reconcile these two apparently contradictory instructions? Sannyas means to dedicate everything, iha yasya manasa dasya, everything, your words, your mind, your body, your wealth, your deeds, everything devoted to the service of the Lord. It's not necessary to formally renounce family, renounce business, renounce a place of residence, don the saffron robes, and take up a traveling lifestyle. Lord Chaitanya did that, but his message was, you needn't leave home. You simply need to leave unwanted association. You simply need to distance yourself from the association of people who are mad after sense gratification, and place yourself in the association of devotees who are engaged in the service of the Lord. Association is the key. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastahai Lavamata Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhihai. We had here on the premises of the Spanish Fork Temple last Memorial Day weekend the Sadhu Sangha retreat. There were 1,500 devotees who gathered here for 4 days of chanting. They just produced a video on it. You can catch it at our Facebook page, Caru, Utah, or Sri Sri Radhakrishna Temple. I posted it just yesterday, a very professionally made video. You see hundreds and hundreds, 1,500 faces. What are they doing for 4 days? Not frowning, not criticizing, not fault finding, dancing, smiling, eating wonderful prasadam, enjoying each other's association, discussing about Krishna, singing Krishna's holy names. Not a single discouraging word, not a single critical word, not a single depressing word for 4 days. There's nothing like the association of devotees. And when you get yourself in the middle of that kind of association, spiritual life is already achieved. Just don't get yourself dislodged. I forget who it was, gave the example. When you go to the Kumbh Mela, the great gathering of 30 million people on the bank of the Ganges once every 8 years, and there's a certain window of opportunity when the constellations line themselves up just so. And if you take bath in the Ganges during that 4 or 5 hour period, all your sins are destroyed and you get blessings. So when the time comes, a huge crowd, hundreds of thousands of people start moving to get immersed, at least to the waist up, waist down in the Ganges. Now, there's nothing you need to do except just be in the middle of that crowd. The crowd will carry you. Your feet may not even touch the sand, but the crowd will lift you up and the crowd will carry you. You don't have to do anything independently or separately. Similarly, the key of success in spiritual life is just to get into the association of devotees. And when you're in the association of devotees, you have automatically given up the association of non-devotees. That's what sannyasi means. In the association of devotees, you're only going to hear topics about and chanting of and glorification of the holy names of the Lord. That means you've given up mundane topics. In the association of devotees, you're only going to eat vegetarian food which has been offered to the Lord, prasadam. So that means you've given up the fast food joints, the flesh, the chicken, the poultry. And that means that's what sannyasis do. So just by the one single act of associating with devotees, you automatically achieve all the results of the renounced order of life. In fact, one devotee came up to Lord Chaitanya. He was a new devotee. He was all full of zeal, enthusiasm. He said, "What should I do, Lord Chaitanya? I want to be part of the mission. I want to make a difference. I want to do something to please you." And he was probably thinking Lord Chaitanya would tell him to leave his wife, leave his home, and go traveling with the Sankirtan or the Padayatra. But Lord Chaitanya said, "Sat Sangye Tyage Vaishnavashara." All you have to do to achieve a position of renunciation equal to or even superior to those sannyasis who are not devotees is just to remain where you are, cultivate your own Krishna consciousness, and be a positive influence to others. Be a light to other people. Bharata bhumite harya manusya janma sharta para upakara. It's not required to change your dress, to change your hairstyle, to leave home. No. Just learn diligently amongst your own circle of devotees, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Practice it scrupulously, and then para upakara, use what you've learned to spread it around, to increase, to widen your inner circle, to widen the circle of devotees. Don't be a false renunciate after the example or the case of the Mayavadi, the impersonalistic sannyasis. Even in this Kali Yuga age, and although sannyas is prohibited, we still see in India so many false pseudo sannyasis, people dressed in the ochre robes. Rather than serving the Lord, they're simply loitering the street, begging for food. Artificially, they call themselves as Narayan. That by adopting the saffron robes, one imagines oneself to be on the level of Narayan. God is spirit, we're spirit. So the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, merge everything together. They merge God as a spirit, they merge ourselves as a spirit, lump it all in, and imagine themselves to be God, without considering that in the spiritual realm there are various categories. There's the Supreme Spirit, and then ourselves are a tiny spirit. But they make no distinction between the Great Spirit and the tiny infinitesimal spirit, between the infinite, infinitely large, and the infinitely small. And so they think of themselves, just by virtue of taking the saffron robe and being initiated into sannyasi, they think that they have become God. And as God, they no longer perform any duties. Not only do they not help others, but they cannot even help themselves. Viprad, Vishad, Gunaya, Tara, Rabindana, Parada, Bindamigwacha, Pacham Garisham, Manyeta, Patom, Manovichara, Pranam Namo, Bhagavate, Purusha, Tabhyam. Prahlad Maharaj says that these sannyasis who artificially accept the Swami order of life and imagine themselves to be God, Manyeta, Arpitam, Manovicinatam, who think of themselves as God, it is said they can't even help themselves, what to speak of helping others. On the other hand, aho bato shabacho guriyam yasjabarte bartate namatavyam te pus te pas te buduhushash brahmanacho namagrinatiate. Even those who are born in the family of dog eaters, but they are versed in the science of Krishna consciousness, they not only help themselves, but they are a light to the entire world. Mat karma nipuno mantro tantra visharada avaishnava guru shrat vaishnava shapacha guru. If one has been born in the family of dog eaters, but knows the science of Krishna, applies it to his own life, and can spread it and share it and enrich the lives of others, that person is actually a renunciate. That person is actually a Swami. On the other hand, mantra tantra visharadaham avaishnava guru na sasya. Though he may know all kinds of mantras and tantras and be able to do rituals and make a good show, still it is said that he is not qualified. He is not qualified to be a guru. Jnanam ekam parachanatir indra brahma nirgaram abhayati artaurupanam paranta shabdabdi brahmani. Those people who are averse to transcendence, they approach the absolute truth through what Prabhupada called speculative sense perception. For those who are not engaged in the service of the Lord, who simply identify with the various energies of the Lord and think of themselves as part and parcel of Brahman, the effulgence from the Lord, then everything is perceived through the differentiated speculative senses, and everything appears to them to be relative. Now, we all know that you have different senses. The ears hear, the nose smells, the eyes see, the tongue tastes, and the skin feels. For instance, you hear the sound of a drum with your ears, you see the form of a beautiful woman with your eyes, you taste a delicious milk preparation with your tongue. So all your experiences come through the senses, which are differentiated. In other words, your knowledge, your experience are all segmented and divided into different categories. So you're going to miss the fact that it all comes from one source. You're going to miss out, you're going to not see the forest for the trees. All of your experiences are differentiated, they're compartmentalized. That means that your consciousness has been splayed out all over the map. Vyavashatmaka buddhi Eka Kurunandana, Bahushakaya Nadishta, Buddhya Vibhashina. Those who are devotees, who realize that not only is the Lord diffused throughout the creation, but he also has a separate existence. And that in effect there is only one reality, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appears differently according to his different energies, and he can be perceived in millions and millions of separated ways. But those who are trained up by a bona fide spiritual master know that behind all of the diversity, there is ultimate oneness. And the oneness is not artificially achieved by imagining yourself as non-differentiated from the Brahman, from which come all these energies. The oneness is achieved by realizing that I am a son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He created me, he loves me, he created me to love me and to be loved by me. And so in all of the various activities and in all of the different sense experiences that we have, there's a unity. There's a unification. There's an integration. We see the diversity coming, but we acknowledge that its source is one. It has no separate existence, has no reality in and of itself. This is confirmed by Sukadeva Goswami right in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he tells the sages of Naimisharanya, Tato nyatana kinchana yad vibhakshata pritag dvishash. Whatever you see, separate from the one supreme source. Pritag dvishash yat krita rupana mahabhihi. Whatever you see, whatever different forms you see. Nakarichit kwapi chadushtita matir. And whatever different topics and subject matters. We go to school and there's so many different courses, you see. Whatever you hear, the different touches, some of which may be hot and some of which may be liquid and some of which may be biting and cold. So many different ways do we perceive so many different sense objects with our senses. See what I mean? But if you see all these separately, without their connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then every one of the thousands and thousands of sense perceptions that you experience every single day does nothing more than to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat with no resting place. Krishna says, everything that you experience is but an expansion of my energy. Everything is sustained by Krishna. But that does not mean that he has lost his individual personality and has become one with everything. That does not mean, although he made the creation, he's not limited to the creation. He's not one with the creation. He made the creation and then he walked away. He did and he didn't. He's everywhere present within the creation, but he also has his own life. People say God is the universe. God made the universe. And in that sense, sure, he's the universe. Maitatam idam sabam jagat avyaktam mortinam. He says, I pervade and support everything in this universe, but jagat avyaktam mortinam, in my form which is invisible, which is unmanifest to the conditioned souls who inhabit this universe. If you want to see God, you have to approach him through devotional service. Serve the disciplic session. Apprentice yourself to a spiritual master. Jnaninas tattvadarshana. Only one who can see the truth is he who has apprenticed himself to another one who is seeing the truth. And by the virtue of those who see the truth, you can also be blessed with the transcendental eyes by which you can see the original personality of God. Otherwise, that form is invisible to all the conditioned souls within this material universe. Krishna was personally present on the planet 5,000 years ago. And even though he was there walking and talking, acting as a historical personality, it wasn't that many people who saw him as the source of everything, as the Supreme Personality of God. Arjuna said, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Povitam Param, Purusham Saswadam Dibram, Adi Deva Jambaram. You are the Adi Deva. You are the original person. You are the Sarva Karana Karan. You are the cause of all causes. But how many people said that? How many people? Did Duryodhana, did Ashwatthama, did Karna, did Drona, did Dhritarashtra? Very, very few recognize Krishna to be the original personality behind all the diversity of this material world. And the reason for that was there is a process. There is a process. Tadvidi pranipana, paripashana, upadekshaditi, jnanina stadvadarshana. Approach the Lord by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. And when one is in fact in the association of devotees, one is in the association of the Lord. The Lord manifests himself in this material world in the company, in the form of his devotees. Otherwise, although he created the material world, although every nook and cranny of this material world exhibits his handiwork, his artistry, people always ask us when they visit the temple, what's the significance of the peacock? I tell them it's the national bird of India. Krishna puts a peacock feather in his crown. In the land of Krishna, where he appeared in Vrindavan, there are 12 peacocks in every tree. But aside from that, the significance of the peacock is that God is the greatest artist. Who could possibly imagine creating something as mind-bogglingly beautiful as a peacock with its indigo chest, its little comb, and its beautiful feathers fanning out? What is the practical reason why the peacock is so drop-dead gorgeous? Well, I'll tell you, there is no practical reason. That's just the nature of God. He is such an abundant creator. He loves creating far beyond any question of necessity. There is an exuberance. There is a constant festival of creation emanating from the Lord. Anybody who gets up in the morning thinks, oh, just another old day, is totally missing the wonders, the miracles that abound in God's creation. So that Lord who exists, who created everything with exuberant creative capacities and shaktis and energies, he exists apart from this world. He's not synonymous with the world. He's not limited to the world. He pervades and supports the world in his unmanifested form, but he also sports in his own transcendental abode with his own devotees, and so attached is he to that abode, not to the abode, but to the pure devotees who cohabit with him in the abode. It is said in one sense he never sets foot outside of that transcendental abode of Goloka Vrindavan. In the Brahma Samhita, Prayers by Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, 5th chapter, 37th verse, it says, Ananda Chinmaya, Rashi Pratibhavish, Tabira Eva, Nijarupataya Kalabirhi, Gologa Eva Nivasati Akalatma Bhuto. Now here, this third line, Goloka Eva Nivasati Akalatma Bhuto. Akalatma means he's everywhere. He's in the hearts of every living being. There is no part of God's creation, material and spiritual, where he is not. And yet at the same time, we can only be one place or another place, isn't it? If I'm here, I'm not at the barn. If I'm at the barn, I'm not at the temple. If I'm in Spanish Fork, I'm not in Salem. But Krishna can, at one and the same time, be everywhere and be apart. We can say of Krishna, and Krishna only, that he is everywhere. There is no place where he is not. But his special attraction is for the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. In the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that I can hardly even imagine myself apart from my devotees. My own abode has no attraction were it not for the presence of the devotees. My opulences have no meaning for me, only insofar as I can share them with my devotees. Yat charana seva padma padum sajasa karam malam pratidapta vipra tadanya mano vachanopadam pranam namo bhagavate purushaya tabhyam. Krishna says that the goddess of fortune passed up Shiva, passed up Brahma, passed up Indra, passed up Chandra, passed up Karuna when she appeared for celebrating Diwali here in a few weeks' time. And one of the main significant events that happened at Diwali was Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, appeared from the ocean of milk. And when she appeared, her beauty was such that all the demigods wished that she would choose them as their husband. And so they, preened themselves and pulled in their guts such as they were and posed in such a way as to attract Lakshmi. But she passed over all of them and chose Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. Evam gunam vinimishari shadganun varam nijakashayata gunashrayam sarve bhagaram gunabharapsham thomakundam pariricharajam. She took that one personality amongst all the qualified, powerful demigods, Krishna, into her heart, because Krishna alone seemed detached. Krishna's tongue was not hanging out. Krishna was not wishing that she would choose him. Krishna was not feeling incomplete. He was not thinking that my incompleteness will be completed were Lakshmi to choose me. He was completely self-satisfied. Avishmitam tam punipanam karam. Completely free from any desires, any hankerings, any appetites, absolutely and totally full and ecstatic within himself. And that's what attracted Lakshmi. But Krishna says, how did I achieve this attractive temperament? It is by serving my devotees. As long as I've got devotees around me, as long as I can get amongst the devotees and sing with the devotees and eat prasadam with the devotees and gossip even with the devotees and dance with the devotees, it says, I am completely self-satisfied. There's nothing else I need. And when Lakshmi saw Krishna's detachment, and Krishna attributes his sense of detachment to his attachment for the devotees. Krishna basically is saying in his high-mindedness and humility, I am nothing without my devotees. What I am is because I serve. Charana Padma Povitaranam, I have become purified. I have assumed my attractive qualities, enchanting qualities, only because of service to the devotees. So when God makes that kind of a testimony, how could we minimize or be indifferent to the association of devotees? Now, in the Vedic literatures compiled by the author, Srila Vyasadeva, there are all kinds of descriptions of transcendental realization through different things like fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, as well as devotional service. It's all mixed in there in the Vedic literatures. And there are various Puranas. There are Puranas in the mode of goodness, there are Puranas in the mode of passion, there are Puranas in the mode of ignorance, there's Ganesh Purana, there's Garuda Purana, there's Shiva Purana, there's so many Puranas in which even worship of various demigods is also mentioned and recommended in different names and forms. After all of that, Vyasadeva wasn't feeling satisfied, feeling incomplete. And so he appealed to his guru, just like when Arjuna was feeling dissatisfied and incomplete, confused at the onset of the Kurukshetra war. He put it on the altar. He put his confusion, he put his questions on the altar of Krishna. Sishyasteham sarimam tram prapanam. In the same mood, Vyasadeva placed himself at the disposal of a spiritual master. He opened himself up and he says, tell me, I can take it. Whatever it is, I can take it. I want honesty. Arjuna said to Krishna, previously we were talking as friends. Friends sometimes exaggerate things. Friends sometimes embellish a story to make a better impression. There's all kinds of things that friends do. But there's only one thing that the teacher does to the disciple, that the guru does to his shishya, and that means he gives it to him straight. Asocham nan-vasocham, pragnapasha, gatasam nenu sachana. Krishna, as soon as the nature of the relationship changed, as soon as Arjuna said to Krishna, I only want to talk on this basis. You're my teacher, I'm your disciple. So right away, with that permission on the part of Arjuna, Krishna immediately told the truth. You're a fool. You're a fool because you're lamenting for what is not worthy of lamentation. The wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. We are not these bodies. Similarly, Narada Muni, when Vyasadeva says, give it to me, whatever it is, I'll take it. Give me the medicine. I don't care how bitter it is. I want to be cured. I want to be cured. Similarly, Narada Muni calls Vyasadeva fool. Jugupsadam dharma kritena shashara shobhava raktasya mahan vyatakaramaha yadvakyato dharma ititaras namanyate tasya nidharma. Saying to his disciple, Narada Muni says, I think you've done a great disservice to humanity. Namanyate tasya. I think you've misled people. It's one thing to mislead people, but it's another thing to mislead people under the cloak of religion, isn't it? Let's say you're a physician and someone comes to you and they're sick because of eating a certain food. You don't tell them, eat less of the food that's making you sick. You tell them, stop eating the food that's making you sick and eat this other food. If you tell them, okay, you're eating so much chocolate every day, now you have to eat half as much. What's the benefit? How can you call yourself a physician who really has the best interests of your patient at heart? You're more interested in flattering them in order to get your fee. So it's true, sometimes compromises are made in the Bhagavad Gita, Najyanat, na buddhibedam janayap, agyana karmanam. Those who are ignorant, those who are not aware of the Supreme Personality of God in devotional service, Krishna tells to Arjuna, don't disturb their minds. Just let them do charities, penances, and so. So the compromises are there. Even from Krishna's mouth, they're there. But why would a physician allow the patient to continue to eat the food, even if it's restricted, even if he reduces it? Why would he allow him to continue to eat the food that made him sick in the first place? Does that physician truly have the best interests of the patient? Similarly, Narada Muni says to Vyasadeva, why have you recommended demigod worship, mental speculation, yoga, philosophical inquiry in the name of religion, when you and I know very, very well that none of those will cure the patient of his disease? It may reduce the symptoms, it may reduce the severity, but is not the purpose of great saints and sages and scriptural resources to cure us entirely, get us out of this entanglement of this material world and bring back to God? If your teaching does not result in the soul being liberated permanently and eternally from the vicious cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age, and how can you call yourself a benefactor and well-wisher of you and me? A very severe chastisement, scathing chastisement. But that's what the teacher has to do in order to get the attention, in order to sometimes wake up the disciple. Bhavatana turo prayam, yasho bhagavatamaram, yanayavashu natusyata, manyatva darshanam. Narada Muni says, you know what I think your problem is? You have neglected bhavatano bhayam, yasho bhagavatamalam. You have neglected it. You have given devotional service, but you've given it along with mental speculation, along with monism, along with austerities, along with yoga, along with philosophy. Now you need to give the pure, unadulterated, unalloyed devotional service. You need to give them the medicine, the only medicine that's going to cure them of this material disease and get them back to home, back to God. And therefore, you need to write a literature in which none of these other taints exist. A pure literature dedicated only to the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and nothing else. Dharma prodito kaitavo tra nirmatsanam vedam vashtamatra vishnam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kimre Sadyo Didi Avarudite Tragarivishurusara. He said you write one more work, which is going to be your summum bonum on the unadulterated glories of the Lord. Manye Twad Darshanam Kanam. And this, I think, will give that satisfaction, will give that medicine, that antibiotic, that preventative by which souls will no longer return to this material of birth, death, disease, and old age. If the purpose of Scripture is to liberate the soul from the entanglement of birth, death, disease, and old age, to free him from the imprisonment of returning in amongst the 8,400,000 species of life, if it is to reestablish his lost relationship with God, under those circumstances, no living beings, there are compromises that can be made for those who are kind of sold out to the material energy. But under the circumstances that living beings are suffering and that God and his pure devotees cry out of compassion for the suffering living being, under the circumstances that we are eternal spirit souls, but we are in the circumstances of having accepted this material body made of mucus, bile, and stool, under those circumstances, Narada Muni says, living beings should never be encouraged to make a plan for sense enjoyment, and especially not in the name of religion. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's all the time we have left today. I kind of suspect we'll have more to say on that tomorrow. Rob, prepare your hashtags while I go through the comments here. It's one of the better parts of our sessions together that Rob puts together these pithy little sayings. Then he sends them to me by email, and then I post them on the Facebook pages. So Brent, thank you again for joining us, and thank you for being a good listener and consequently a great speaker. I'll look forward to your giving talks many, many more times in the future, and I hope that you're willing to do so. He told me that in order to put this talk together, which I had to actually cut it off at 45 minutes. Our normal talks are 30 minutes because we want it to be not too long for first-time comers. But he spoke for 45 minutes. It was fascinating. I don't think anybody got antsy. But after 45 minutes, he still had more points to make, and he asked me, should I go on? I said no. So he wound it up very quickly. But he said that the presentation that we saw, that we had to kind of truncate at 45 minutes, which it could have gone on another 15 minutes, was 30 slides. He said when he originally made up the slideshow, he had 80 slides. So he had to eliminate 50. But what you can do is you could take those 80 slides and make 3 different slideshows, 3 different, even 4 half-hour slideshows. So, yeah, Krishna has a lot for you to do in the future, Brent. Aside from the gardening on Thursday mornings, he has a lot for you to do in terms of teaching. He made you a teacher. John Malik, thank you very much. Bye, Bobby. Good morning, Bhakti Gary. Charan Chetri, haven't seen that name but once or twice in the past. Thanks for rejoining us. Ram Kishore Prabhuji from Minneapolis. Haribo, thanks for joining us this morning. All glories. Happy Motivational Monday. Jean, never missed a single session in the last 3 years. Sundari Priya, good morning. Ram Kishore says, wonderful class, thank you. Okay, Rob, we're all ears, sitting on the edge of our seats for your summation. And not only the quotes, but anything you want to say, in addition to that. We always enjoy your insights.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It was a great class today. I got several, and I'll be sure to get these to you this time. I'm not driving or anything like that, so I won't be distracted by my day. Great. I apologize for.
Then I can post them in the next few minutes. That'd be fantastic.
So I guess we'll get started. Krishna is who you need to please to see the forest past the trees.
Right on.
And Take the bhakti course. Krishna is the ultimate source.
You know, these are just short, simple things, but they show a deep understanding of philosophy.
It helps me ingrain it and learn it better.
What was that again?
It helps me learn it better
Oh,
and
okay.
it be more ingrained. Seek the painter, not the paint.
Seek the painter, not the what?
Paint.
Paint. What was
Krishna is the painter and he's the
Oh,
source.
okay. Okay.
The
Yeah, yeah.
paint is the material energy.
Seek the painter and not the paint. Good. Yeah. Yep.
Uh, Krishna doesn't need to compete. He's already complete.
Amazing.
Keep her cool. Don't be a fool.
You know, I was talking with Chaitanya Charan. We had an interview last week. I hope everyone accesses that on our YouTube channel. But we were talking about the importance of what we call pithy phrases. He really uses them a lot. He puts a lot of emphasis on the very kind of phrases that you're coming up with. I'm going to study them. I'm going to repeat them because there's nothing that can drive a point home better than a nice little sort of poetic, onomatopoetic, alliterative phrase, just like the ones that you're coming up with. Any
It's
more?
also a lot of fun.
There you go.
And I got two more. Don't get wrangled, get disentangled. And this one actually was inspired by Brent's comment, but be a teacher, be a preacher, lend a hand to the spiritual reacher.
Excellent. I'm going to use every one of those as soon as you send them to me. Every one of them.
I will do that right now.
Well, you know, we talked about the glories of association. That's what we do online here regularly with all the nice jump ons from Facebook and Rob and his contributions. So it's a nice little community. It's got richer and thicker throughout the last 3 years. So I'm more fired up. I'm more inspired to continue these classes than ever before. And that's all because of your support and your contributions. So thank you, one and all. We'll be back mañana. And hopefully, I'm going to get some work done on my computer in the next 24 hours so it doesn't take 20 minutes for Zoom to boot up. But anyway, some service for the day. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.